Simon, I think we've got another hashtag here, which is go past the cheese.
Oh, I've written kitsch is just past cheesy. I've got it written down. So, yeah.
That's right. It's very true. If you hesitate, you get shy or don't go all the way, you miss the point. It's not going to be cool. It's just going to be bad.
You're listening to the Occupational Philosophers with Simon Banks and John Rice.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Occupational Philosophers, a not-so-serious business podcast which mashes up creativity, curiosity, imagination with a heavy sprinkling of philosophy thrown in where we can. As always, I'm joined with my co-host and co-producer, Simon Banks in Australia. Hello, Simon. What's caught your eye this week?
Well, hello, John. Good evening, good morning to you. What's caught my eye is bad design. And in a little bit of a nod to our guest today, I was doing a little bit of Googling, as you do, some of the worst design fails ever. Now, I appreciate this is a visual thing, but I'll try and describe them. One of the best ones was in a quite sort of posh toilet in a hotel, they had mirrors above the toilet cubicles. So you would go in and you could look up and you could see what that person was up to, so to speak. Yeah.
What? I mean, that's just bizarre. That must have got closed down. And somebody.
I'll put a link to this article in the show notes. It's from Board Panda. So it's and everyone votes them up. So that's one of them. So you almost have to go in with a blanket or something, maybe your conference notepad over your head.
I was thinking of one of those umbrella hats that people sometimes wear just so you could cover yourself and just shield yourself from in the cubicle.
So here's a couple more. There's a sign saying slow children at play, child running across the road. Underneath, another sign, hunting with shotgun only. So it's sort of like children running. And my final one, this is a sign. It says, I'll read it out as it's written. Attention, toilet only for disabled, elderly, pregnant children. Thank you for shopping with us. So it's like something, all right. so
I love it.
So I think just there's so many funny things, and I'll put a link to this article. And great design matters, John. What's caught your curious eye?
Great design matters. Well, what caught my eye was something about AI. Again, it's very, very much in my mind, and I keep hearing about it in my work as well. So I saw that the University of Exeter has done what they think is quite a novel study around how AI seems to make individuals more creative. And they did it through having people write stories. And they said stories written with AI assistance have been deemed to be more creative, better written, and more enjoyable. And the point that caught my eye further down in the article, again, we'll put it in the show notes, is the fact that the less creative writers, conversely, saw a greater increase in creativity, novelty by 10.7%, usefulness by 11.5%, 26.6% better written, 22.6% more enjoyable, and 15.2% less boring. So it made me think that maybe in service to our listeners, we ought to get AI to write our scripts for us next time. Now, what do you think?
In defense of our script writing, and we should send this to Dr. David Cropley, one of our previous guests. He's got a great insight on all these tests. Now, with this test, you say for the uncreative, improve their writing. Of course, if you're bad at something and you get something that's got a bit more skill to write for you based on other people's writing, sure. But don't you look at stuff and you go, oh, AI's written this. Like, can you not pick it like 80% of the time?
I probably can pick it. I mean, I've been using it for some analysis recently, sure. And I realized that the analysis that was produced didn't really work, that there was a human element that was crucially missing in that, which is part of but it was really interesting to do it. It was really interesting to do it because I thought I could just sit back, hands behind my head, sip a pina colada, and job
just
done.
Use your toe on the keyboard.
No.
Enter, return,
That's
return.
It, yes. But no, I am still have to be the human overlord. AI hasn't taken over
I like
yet.
it.
Now we've got a guest episode again this week, Simon.
We do. John, our guest today is a creative director with more than 2 decades of experience and a portfolio that encompasses the full range of visual arts, including interior design, art curation, film production design, and graphic work, which unite under the umbrella of spatial design. She believes that the design of a space is holistic, yet interpretive, and that the experience of the client is inextricable from the intent of the designer. From Manhattan to Miami and several cities in between, our guest has designed dozens of restaurants, including the highly acclaimed and award-winning Sofreh, which I hope I've got right, in Brooklyn, for which she incorporated a historic and traditional Persian aesthetic into a chic contemporary design. She is featured in the New York Times, the New Yorker, Eater, and the New York Magazine, to name a few, and now divides her time between New York and Sydney. Please put your hands together for Rozhia Tabnak. Woo!
Hey,
Thank you.
Hey, Rozhia, maybe follow on from myself and Simon. What's caught your curious eye this week?
I recently stumbled upon a delightful show called Everything is Alive. Do you know it?
No, we don't.
No. Simon, and okay.
No, please tell.
Show notes.
So it's both entertaining and heartfelt. Imagine an interview with a can of cola named Lewis, a bottom shelf soda with personality. It's like a podcast where inanimate objects share their observations and feelings. So his story is about waiting for someone to drink him. It really touched me. It was really heartfelt. It's fascinating exploration of purpose and existence. Definitely worth a listen. It's a good one.
And where would we watch this in Australia, at least? Where's it streaming?
Oh, it's a podcast.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. The name of it is Everything is Alive. So you can basically, on many platforms like yours, you can find it. And this was the first episode, Simon. And I think it's their best episode. So look for a can of cola called Lewis.
And are they going to follow this can of cola called Lewis, Rozhia, or is it a different character comes through every week? Is that the idea of it? Or
different
it's a soap opera about Lewis the Coca-Cola cat.
It's a sock. It's like they have a can of cola, they have a chewing gum, they have a pacifier, they have all types of different objects, and it's their experience. But this one really broke my heart. Like, it was just the sweetest thing. It's just really heartfelt and funny.
That's quite an achievement to have a can of Coke sort of pull at the heartstrings.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And John, he knows that he's not a special. Like, he talks about the fact that he's not a Coca-Cola. He's just a can of cola, like a no brand, no one cares and all that.
Oh, no.
And he's waiting for someone to consume it.
Yeah.
And, oh dear, it's just the sweetest thing. And it's funny. It's really funny. Well written.
All right. I look forward to listening to that. Now, look, we have many guests from around the world. We have many listeners from around the world. Where are you in the world today, and what can you see out your window?
I'm in Sydney, Australia right this minute, and I'm on a 10th floor, and I can see a Gothic English church outside and a lot of greens and a beautiful sky.
Yeah, and it's an amazing day today as well. Now, we're going to dive straight into our dinner party round. Now, this has come from, I'm sure you've been to many dinner parties, given you've designed a lot of restaurants. You go to those dinner parties and you sit down and you maybe sat next to people you don't know. And so the first question might be, hey, what do you do? Or something. It's not, I'm an accountant or whatever it may be. And they're a little bit boring. So John and I thought, well, if we were designing a really great dinner party, what might be some of the more interesting questions we would ask? So to kick off the dinner party tonight, we're having some Manhattan cocktails just in celebration of your time in New York. And our first question is, what's giving you joy at the moment?
What's giving me joy at the moment? Well, it's a special one to me because I'm thrilled that I started a project close to heart, creating a brand with my sister in Australia. She's a creative director and also a creative powerhouse. We have bottled up a hydrating, based on our hydration routine, inspired by ancient Persian recipes, we built a brand. called Zapožika. It's not just about drinks, it's about celebration of culture and creativity. So think of it as jazzed up water that's both natural and guilt-free. And, it's a joy for me to collaborate with her because it's the first time for a long time that we are in the same time zone.
Oh, that's very cool.
Have you worked with your sister before,
Yes.
Rozhia, or is this the first time?
We actually designed many spaces together. We just finished designing a restaurant cafe in Brooklyn, New York.
And how does it, let's say, I'm thinking, collaborating with my brother or sister and the emotions may be heightened. How does it go in that sort of familial way of collaboration? You're a bit like sort of the Brady Bunch or the Cause or something, aren't you? Like working together.
Oh my gosh, Simon.
Famous families, and you get the Cause.
The first two that came to my mind, yeah.
Oh my gosh, which character would I be? That's a bit scary. But, well, Rodina, we have different strengths. I don't know about you, but I don't have an off button. I'm sort of lost in my work. Everything's an inspiration, and I take references all the time and write notes and record things in my head. And she's the same. So we do have this strange thing of wherever I am in the world, she's sharing something, sending me a visual, and we're talking. So that's never ending between us. So between being sisters and your daily life, the work really is right in the mix. But she specializes in certain areas that really complements and really works well together with me. She's very much a person that is really good at fashion and styling trends. She's incredible at branding, and I'm very good at editing and curating. And together, thankfully and hopefully, we can achieve something better than if I would do it on my own. I could have done. So I love doing that. It's a gift for me, truly.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. What a nice story.
That concepts around brand and brand strategy might be something we might like to come back to actually later in the show. But you said you don't really switch off, but is there any hobby that you can lose yourself in when you are not working on something creative, or do you find another
Swimming
way
tops
to
my list, John. With my water headphones on, I just glide through the pool and get lost in the music. I recently came across actually a quote that perfectly captures the feeling for me. The water is my sky and I swim to fly. So it's a pure bliss for me. I really get lost in there, and it's a form of meditation. And that is my first hobby. That's my favorite, spending time really on my own.
Sounds great. What's on the playlist? I have to say, what's on the playlist, Rozhia? What would you be listening to? Sort of hard techno dance music or classical ambient?
I don't know about you, but I have a playlist for every project, John. If I'm traveling, if I go to Morocco, I have a Moroccan list for my project. If I'm in New York, if it's summer, I have Billie Holiday. If it's this, I have that. Like it's literally, it really depends on the state of mind, and it depends how I feel that way at that day specifically, and the projects that I'm thinking of and the inspirations that move me. But not heavy metal, I think, and it's not hardcore rap.
You do have the pool playlist, yeah?
I do have a pool playlist, and I also go to Spotify liked list often. And it sort of shuffles it for me. And I like sometimes just this element of surprise.
Yeah, love it.
I have to say on that note, so I have a Spotify account, which is shared by my wife sometimes and by my 13-year-old daughter, so who listens to it probably more than me. So every time it says, "Hey, John, this is what you like," it's usually sort of songs from musicals, West End musicals. And I'm thinking, I don't really like this. Why do you keep showing me Moulin Rouge?
Two things here, John.
It's not
Family
my thing.
account. It doesn't cost hardly any more, so you'll get your own one.
Oh, okay.
And again, I'm the same. I'm the same thing. My daughter will get on my Netflix account. I'm like, "Oh, what have you done? You've mucked up my algorithm." Like, suggestions are completely ruined. I've gone from David Lynch
That's
to
true for me as well.
Girls That Are Mermaids, or something.
Oh, that's so funny.
I think I've had to watch Pitch Perfect about 17 times.
Oh, haven't we all? So I'm going to jump in with our next question. Dinner party's going well. Who or what inspires you at the moment?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I've recently become a board member and joined the Chambers of Commerce and Business Precinct Association, which is exciting. It's really an interesting change for me and a different type of project. It's a chance to reconnect with friends and colleagues and brainstorm creative changes from within. So that's something that excites me and it's inspiring. But I also visited Elena Guzina's gallery exhibition recently called Art of Seeing. Her creative process is truly inspiring, and she uses this quote that moves me. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's a powerful reminder of the potential for transformation, both in art and business, and also personal relationships.
I love it.
I do like that. What's that exhibition? I mean, we know Alina, and I've seen some of the work, obviously, that she's done. I remember the bouncers that she brought, the doorman of New York.
Yes, the doorman of New York.
Fascinating.
Yes.
But it's a different one to that?
So this was a curation, a collection of her work, as well as highlighting the art of seeing, which is really a massive project that she works on, that it could be corporate, or it's basically you can have these inspirational, incredible sessions to show you how to see things differently. And I know Elena personally, and she's an incredible creative and a powerhouse. And her process is amazing. She does not compromise, and she captures a moment and in a very unique manner. I find that very inspiring, and I have a lot of respect for her work.
Just building on, we were saying about what caught your curious eye, but more profoundly, is there something that you are really curious about right now, or a question that you are currently wrestling with? There's usually something in everyone's mind that's turning over and over.
Just traveling back and forward and achieving a lot of goals that I had on my list, I hit this reflective pause, John. And is this moment of thinking, is this as good as it gets, or to what end? A type of feeling. And it's a shift of perspective. It's considering what truly matters to me and how to keep that spark of motivation alive.
That could be my big question, I think, today.
Well, is this as good as it gets?
And then no, I think it gets better, but the motivation one.
Again, it's a question on the mind of most of our listeners. Is this as good as it gets?
For you, John, yes.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, I like that. I think that is probably one of the biggest questions you could probably wrestle with. So.
How would you describe what you do, and or another way of phrasing it? If you sit in between three or four things, what are those intersections?
I wear many hats, but if I had to pick one, I would say that I'm a creative director specializing in brand strategies and spatial experiences. My work is multidisciplinary, so spanning media, interior design, fashion, curation, and beyond. In short, I would say I'm a polydisciplinary, a creative chameleon, if you will.
A polydisciplinary creative chameleon. All right.
Chameleon.
Love it. I'm trying to write it down, and I've completely misspelled it. I've missed.
I've got creative lizard. I've sort of summarized it. So yeah.
Creative lizard.
Gold,
but I will remember it.
You understand me.
Well, the dinner party's been wonderful, John. The Occupational Philosophers was born of the desire to explore the interplay between curiosity, creativity, the world of imagination, with a healthy dash of philosophy thrown in, which takes us to very much the heart of the work that you do. So let's dive on in. Now, you work across so many projects. How does curiosity drive your work? And is there a space or time in your life where maybe this curiosity kicked off?
I believe imagination is like a muscle. You need to keep using it to stay fit. My father encouraged me to dream up 3 impossible scenarios every day, and I still do. It's a fantastic way to flex those creative muscles. Interestingly, actually, Simon, while I was waiting in line to vote in Sydney recently at a primary school, I noticed one of those kids' drawings on a board, which was about the concept of what if. And her idea was, what if we could bottle music? Isn't that amazing?
Ah, that's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, I do like that. That's just reminded me, actually, Rozhia, there's a little boutique shop in London that's opened up. It's a poetry apothecary. So it's like a chemist, and you go in and all behind the counter is this wall of bottles that all have little poems in them. And you're prescribed a poem according to your mood or what it is you're wrestling with at that moment. So you might be sad, and so they can pull a bottle down with a poem, and you're prescribed this poem to help relieve your melancholy. I just thought it's a fantastic idea. So, again, I'll have to put it in the show notes. It's a cracking idea.
It's a super cute concept. I like it. I like it.
Is it a cafe as well, or is it just literally poems?
Everything's a cafe these days, Simon.
Yeah, well, that's my point.
Coffee and poetry, coffee and bikes,
Yeah.
beer and ping pong and everything. Yeah, so it is a cafe and poetry, and you could sit there and open a bottle and, get lost in a poem. Rozhia, just coming to one of the things we saw, which was a quote by Pete Wells in the New York Times, and it was Best NYC Restaurants, and it was about the Sofreh restaurant that Simon mentioned in the sort of opening introductions. And it says, you've crafted a location that demonstrates the ways in which contemporary design can be a complement to hospitality, not in competition with it. And so much of what you're doing is involved in this intersection of space, people, emotions, experience, that spatial design. What's the alchemy? Oh, there we go. We're back to that chemist again. What's the alchemy that brings it all together for you? Where does it start? Where does it finish?
That is a good word, alchemy. I take a holistic approach to design, ensuring every element, lighting, music, ambience, anything you see and feel, works together harmoniously. It's all about intention and commitment to align the end experience with the original vision. I love my work, and I drag curiosity into every project to make it fun and entertain myself. That's the ingredient, really, that I use together.
Thinking to the Sofreh restaurant, in the process, the creative process that's leading you towards then what you will then ultimately design, is that the first question? What's the intention here? What experience are we trying to create? And who's involved in those conversations? Just what's the team that comes together?
In this specific case, John, the executive chef, the maker of this incredible woman, Nassim Ali Khani, who is behind Sofreh. This was her dream of hers and a concept that she had in mind to come up with this restaurant. And we talked about it from inception, from beginning, at the ground up, at start. So the name was developed there. We talked about what type of look and feel we have in mind, and we align very well together. She's a client of mine. I have done other projects with her, and I know her very well. So it was really helpful that we shared the taste level, and basically what we had in mind really aligned very well together. And we started this process that took actually many years to come together. And interestingly enough, this was one of the only projects that I did at the time, the first one ever of a Persian kind of a background project. All of my other restaurants, they're fine dining of some sort, and they were all in Manhattan. This was a smaller restaurant, a smaller brand. It was very authentic. It came from a cultural background and the philosophy of certain food. And we worked together very closely. And when it came to life, it was the first time ever that we didn't hire for any of my other projects. I would have always hired a marketing team, PR team. This is just what you do to spread the word and get it started. We didn't actually hire anybody. And this has the most press and the most incredible press. And it came together amazingly, and it's still rocking it. It's still making all the top lists. It's still full. And it's because we talked about the intention. The intention is very important. It was very pure. We kept it still the same. They didn't get worried or change it, or it didn't mishmash in any way. It actually is still going very purely with what we started.
I have to say, again, I'm really getting drawn into this. The question that came to mind is, can you remember the moment where it opened for that first time and you came into that space with everything that you'd come through? The visceral emotion maybe that you had in that moment to go, we've done it? Was there a sense of that?
It's always a celebration because this was it was a very dear project, and it was loved, and it was hard, and I'm used to a large team and hospitality groups and in-house PR department and designers and a whole team. And the nature of it was a small team. Everything was personal, and she was involved in every single detail. I generally come with a vision and bring it to life, and they come and, okay, there it is. They come and collect the child is born. This was every single detail. So yeah, a true celebration. It was wonderful to see.
Now, I'm interested because I'm doing the research, look at the outside of the restaurant and the inside, and understand, in Brooklyn, there's so much foot traffic. So most people would maybe walk to that restaurant rather than sort of pull up in a car park out the back or something. So I'm really interested. How does that inside space meet the outside space? And is there an energy that draws people in? But I'm sure there's also design that sort of seamlessly connects the two. Is there something there that you can share with us how that happens?
It's a minimal space, Simon. It's a small restaurant, and it's very interesting to me, fascinating. In all my career, this one project that's actually stealing the show, if you will. Everybody brings it up and they talk about it, and I'm thrilled because I really care for it, and it's doing really, really well, and it's a special. But the space is quite minimal. There is this element of surprise and this design element that we did. The fascinating thing, Simon, the bathroom made the cover of New York Times. The newspaper had the bathroom. And it was really funny because I was sent it and everyone's just like, congratulations, your toilet made the cover of New York Times.
It's not because it had mirrors on the ceiling, is it?
That was the previous one.
I was going to mention it when you mentioned that. I was just saying that, yes, there are famous toilets, and mine is one of my toilets is quite famous. But the reason why is imagine the space is just really minimal, and the design is very clean, and the bathroom is the element of surprise. And it's the whole thing. I created this wallpaper. It covers every surface, even the dryer and the ceiling and the door, and is made of pre-revolution posters of movies. And they're very kitsch, over the top kitsch. You have to go past cheesy to reach kitsch. And that's when it gets fun and cool. You have to be careful. You have to go past it. You just have to keep going, hit the wall, and that's when you're okay. And downstairs in the private dining section, that bathroom, we project the movies inside the bathroom. So when you're sitting on a toilet, in front of you is the projection of the actual movies. And they're very cheesy and funny and silly and cool.
Now, when my wife and I, we traveled around Europe for about 7 or 8 months and down into Morocco. And so you have a lot of time on your hands. So one of our activities to amuse ourselves was design the ultimate toilet. And part of this was you would sit on the toilet and a film would start playing like old surf movies. So there's I'm not saying great minds think alike, but if you would draw a line, possibly.
I think you are saying that, and I agree with you. There is a nice connection and there is a dialogue between, I think that's when we arrive at the cohesive design and when something turns into something more special and people like it and understand it, because you have the upstairs and you have different version of it downstairs. And it's certainly a surprise in terms of design. The whole restaurant has none of that tone about it. We wanted to stay very well away from cliche and what was expected. So we just wanted a clean, beautiful space.
I have to say, I've got two thoughts springing to mind, Rozhia. One is about soul. I want to pick up on soul because I've heard you talk about this elsewhere. But also, Simon, I think we've got another hashtag here, which is go past the cheese.
Oh, I've written kitsch. Kitsch is just past cheesy. I've got it written down. So, yeah.
That's right. It's very true. If you hesitate or get shy or don't go all the way, you miss the point. It's not going to be cool. It's just going to be bad. Did you ask me about soul?
Yeah, soul. So I heard you mention it. And again, it's one of those things where to an outside ear, they might go, what's that about? How does soul come into play? Again, I suspect myself and Simon have some sense of that ourselves. But yeah, tell us, what's soul that draws you into a project? And then how does that soul then carry through into the, as it were, the
And I'll maybe
design?
frame that just slightly differently, only because I'm reading some of your press and says you take on design projects that have a soul. So how do you even, So on to John's questions. Tell us more.
Well, for me, it's about clear intention and integrity when we talk about the soul. I've turned down projects that don't resonate with my values, like campaigns targeting youth for tobacco companies. My job is to envision what's not yet there and present them with an idea that they could have not arrived at themselves. So it's very important to be very honest and have a clear communication about the intention and really understand that, and then sign up knowing that this is what you're going to bring to reality.
And I love that word intention, which keeps coming up again. And do sometimes sometimes projects start and they don't know what their intention is and you have to help them find it? Or do you help them be a bit clearer on what they want to do?
To be honest, that doesn't usually happen to me, because often when they want to do a project like that, they won't come and seek somebody like me unless they want to build something ground up and they just, for example, leave it up to me. And that's a bit of a worry.
Okay.
I want somebody to have an understanding of what they want, where they're heading. They don't need to know the full picture. That's my job. They don't need to know how to get there. That's my job. But if they have no idea and they're very airy-fairy, that's a bit of a problem.
So a better question would have been, what are the questions you ask when they know they've got an idea, but you help them probably land on that intention better or their purpose? Like what? Because this is at the heart of, I guess, John, what you like to talk about, asking great questions can help you find extra information. So what are some questions you might ask to help them dive a little bit deeper to really land on that? Go from 60% intention to 100% intention?
I would like to have this conversation from the start about many of the details, but the first thing in mind, people, for the lack of other words, people use branding and branding strategy very often. They throw it around and it's just like, what is the brand? What's the essence of the brand and all of that stuff? And they often think about that in terms of a logo, a visual sense that represents it. And it's not about a logo. It's not about just logo. It's about creating an emotional connection with your audience. It's a holistic approach that engages all senses. Think of sense, sound, and the experience. I think that's what makes a brand truly memorable. And I need to speak to them in a manner that they sort of understand in terms of visual communication. So when we talk about intention or branding, it's easier than to clarify and to start that communication.
Just my thoughts with the intention piece, Rozhia, is why the fundamental question that you start to engage with somebody. Say, why are you doing this? What's underneath this for you? Why is this valuable to you? Why is this important to you?
Absolutely. And that's when you find out where it came from. We talked about Persian earlier, and I mentioned to you how it's very important to me. It's not just that Rodina and I get to work together. It's something that comes from a cultural development of it. It comes from our heritage. It's something that we believe in. It's a product that I've been consuming all my life. We would feed it to our own family every day. So it's not a matter of just, okay, we think we have something wonderful, is a winner, we're going to make a lot of money, or this is not in a market yet. I mean, it's important to think that what you're creating is a solution. And when you talk to designers or in design field, they always say to you, come up with a solution, find a problem and then come up with a solution. And then you have this winning ingredient. You can actually make it happen and for it to turn into something special.
So the thought there then, Rozhia, is it's a why for the individual, but the other why is, and why does the world need this? Which brings the almost there where they can see the opportunity for that idea or that project or that restaurant or that whatever it is, why the world needs it along what's the why driving them. And that comes together.
Absolutely. I mean, you have variations of many products. We have variations of many restaurants. We have, in every genre you look at, we have consumerism, and then there are products and there are services out there for them. But the idea, what makes them different, the question that I am interested in is exactly what makes them different. Where did this come from? What are they trying to achieve? What are their hopes and dreams? What they project in future? What are they trying to arrive at? And I would come up with a creative solution, a visual communication, and bring it to life.
I've been reading some of your articles. What does steampunk mean? I remember this right. I think something you designed had either it was influenced by steampunk or it had a steampunk aesthetic. I'm not sure if I got that wrong, but I thought, hey, that sounds cool.
Oh, very cool. Interesting. You really did a really interesting research on me, Simon. I appreciate
I know we look silly, but we're
You are a curious cat, aren't you? Simon, I designed an industrial chic space. I called it industrial chic because just like how when you have a project, you got to give it a shorten something. This is how we describe this one. The concept was industrial chic. It was in Manhattan, downtown, just very close to 14th Street, Union Square. A beautiful place, a large restaurant. When I walked into that space, it was basically was occupied with the previous owners, a hospitality group. So I had to strip it and come up with a complete different design. And it spoke to me immediately because of the culture of where it was positioned in Manhattan, and also because of the floor plan, this really open, beautiful space, and all the concrete that I envisioned and all of that. I just immediately thought, this is going to be that concept and I can bring it to life. One thing that I really wanted, I don't want to just make a cliche concept. I want something that has cultural references to it or has art reference to it. We talked about at the beginning when you introduced me, you were talking about where I get my inspiration and how do I bring together a different part of my experiences. And in this one, a while before that in Washington Square Park, I saw this artist that was doing this incredible artwork, more of a street art meets this intricate, very complex, beautiful forms meeting forms and things changing shapes and in different characters and so on. He had a very specific style to him. I know his first name is Tim. We're going about more than 10 years ago, so I'm terrible with names. I want to say him is Tim Barton. So I have to correct that if I'm wrong, but his first name is Tim. So I said to Tim, I love your work and I'm sure one day we will collaborate. And of course he said, sure. And he had a little chat with me and this passes. And when I saw that restaurant, I just thought, great, I'm going to collaborate with two people. One is Harrison J. Chad. He's a film director, historian, my partner in a lot of creatives. And we did a lot in New York together and know him personally very well. and I wanted to collaborate with Tim. I had a conversation with him, and Harrison said, we need a steampunk concept attached to this. And I just thought, absolutely brilliant, because it's this gigantic wall at the end that it was like calling out, crying for this incredible mural. And mural is usually a cheesy thing to do, but this steampunk, you asked what steampunk is about. I think steampunk is a brilliant idea for Manhattan. It's a brilliant idea for downtown Manhattan. It's an industrial revolution. So you can use, I wanted to use piping. I wanted to use concrete. I wanted to talk about New York, like from Brooklyn Bridge to Statue of Liberty to all of these iconic ways of what Manhattan is about, but have this sense of artistic element to it and stylized artwork that only Tim, I knew Tim can do it, but we need to brief him very closely. So Harrison and I briefed him with every single detail that we wanted. And he, with his magic of his style, he did it and brought it to life with us. And it was a great project. And on side note, I spent days and hours, Simon, going to different places and finding different pipes. We're talking about the pipes for shower. We're talking about all these different pipes. And I wanted them to be vintage from 1940s, from 1960s. And it's just like my designers and my staff were losing their mind because every day they were just sourcing from this part, that part. And we ended up with just all these pipes on the floor. And then I got this lighting, this industrial lighting that I loved and adore. And my idea was to hang all these pipes from the ceiling and then put the lighting to come between them. So that has to talk to the concept of the steampunk. One cannot live on its own. They have to have this conversation and dialogue throughout the design.
I have to say, Rozhia, that I've just reminded myself not to ask you to come and renovate our kitchen.
My goodness. Well,
we'd have to move out for 2 years. It's a really small kitchen. We come back and it looked like H.G. Wells' time machine.
Well, I meant to give you something that you were not expecting. I would certainly hope that you would be in awe of it. I make sure.
Rozhia, it's time for a thought experiment. And we were taken by the fact that your father used to encourage your creativity from quite a young age by asking you to imagine impossible things before breakfast. I think 3 impossible things before breakfast or whatever, which follows very much in the same way as Alice in Wonderland, I'm sure you know.
Absolutely.
She in 6 impossible things before breakfast. So we think your dad was going a bit easy on you, actually.
He'd seen the movie. He didn't want to push it too far. Yeah.
Yes.
I think he just wanted to send me away to get me occupied, not to come and ask more questions.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Just go away and think of these 3 things and come back in an hour. So look, this thought experiment is called Mission Impossible. Hurrah. And should you choose to accept it, of course.
See what we did there.
Yeah.
See what we did there. So we have a series of impossible ideas that listeners have kindly sent in that could revolutionize the workplace design specifically, if only someone could transgress the laws of physics, HR policies, and common sense. So we're going to read out some of these great ideas from listeners, and we'd just like you to give us your vote on which one you would put your money behind and get involved with.
Or just general design thoughts.
Yeah, that's it, as a designer. So, Simon, do you want to do number 1?
Okay, number 1 is emotion reflecting office walls. Now, the thoughts behind this are office walls that change colour and texture based on the collective emotions of the team. So if the team is stressed, the walls turn a calming blue and emit a gentle breeze. If everyone's feeling creative and excited, the walls become vibrant and interactive, displaying images and offering new textures to engage with. So the walls, this is what I'm reading out, the walls are designed to boost productivity and morale by adjusting the environment to match the emotional needs of the workforce. Design thoughts.
That's very cool. I think similar projects has been done in past, but it's a bit of a worry for management. I think unless they create a really wonderful environment, they're going to be very worried very often. Don't you think?
Yeah. I was thinking it'd be better to have the walls reflect the actual mood, not try to regulate it. So if you go over to Tracy and Kevin in the corner, the walls are burning red.
Can you imagine?
You see that and you go, hey, all right.
And if somebody's passing by it, it's like is it sort of thing that if you pass by it, it will show your emotion. So you feel like you're never going to get close to the wall because everything's transparent then.
So we're a bit wary of this idea.
This is fascinating.
A, because it might reveal people's true mood, and B, it might force them all to sort of walk in the middle of the office and just to get too crowded. No one will be out by the walls. Or
What if you're younger,
It's
let's
crazy.
say, and you've been out all weekend on a bit of a bender, and you thought, no, I'm going to go straight to work. Imagine like your colour. Everyone go, no, you've been up there.
What have you been up to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a mix of black and green. Simon.
And again,
that's a big one.
Interesting note of this, that it's this whole idea of, I mean, you probably grew up, I don't know if you've seen those mood rings and things like that kids used to wear.
The shirts.
And it works.
Do you remember them?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it works with the temperature of your body and so on, and that changing. And it is a really interesting science behind it. But I feel like this it can work as an identifier in a way too, because not to get airy-fairy, but people have a certain energy and so on about them, and you can actually identify a person with that too. So this is a very interesting experiment. I'm not sure if you do it in the office, but I would definitely do in a gallery or exhibition. Maybe one of those places in Melbourne that has these experimental spaces, and you can charge people a good amount of money to go and try it out.
I like it. So that kind of gets a partial thumbs up, I think, but it depends on the context of where we might use it, but maybe not workplace. So let's go with the next one here, Rozhia, is the office-wide decision wheel. So what happens here is the idea is, and we all know how slow decisions can take in an office environment. So instead of strategic planning and every important decision being sort of discussed, there's just a massive, giant decision wheel in the office.
Yes.
And if you want to launch a new product, you spin the wheel. Should we promote or fire an employee? We just spin the wheel. Next year's corporate strategy or brand strategy, just spin it again. So what do we think about that? A massive decision wheel.
My goodness. Well, it's funny. You can't do it. I don't know about this. They're better off having a anonymous box with people leaving their decisions in, if that's the case, instead of having that,
okay.
because often it would be a faster way of having 200 emails back and forward in most cases, isn't it?
So a decision box.
Anonymous decision box.
Wheel. Look at that. Look at the design mind.
I like it. I like
Simon.
it.
I mean, it's just being able to work with what's given and actually turn it into something.
We should work together, or three of us. We would literally have. Let's come up with a design team. Let's have an agency tomorrow. I added to my side group.
Like the idea of someone being fired.
I love a side
and everyone
hustle.
gets around for the spin the wheel. Like, hey, is he going to go? It's like a public hanging, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
And one of them, you get a meat tray. Out of all of it, there's just this one thing that doesn't make sense at all. Somebody gets a meat tray or a Cadbury box or something.
or actually, it just says, we're going to fire someone today. Let's see who it is. And the only name on the wheel is Kevin.
But here's a meat tray.
Okay.
All right, let's go with our next one. This is called the window to nowhere. In the middle of the office, there's a massive floor-to-ceiling window. But it doesn't look out onto anything. Instead, it's a window facing another window on the opposite side of the office. You can see your co-workers across the building working at their desks, staring out at you as you stare back at them. It's a strange mirrored existence where you're constantly observing and being observed. Design thoughts, please. Who sent this one in?
Well, if you work in concrete jungle like Manhattan or some parts of the CBD, this is what you get anyway. You sort of get not the same office, but you are looking into an office in front of you, or sometimes it's a residential, and you're always wondering what's about to happen there. Imagine that. It's just someone forgot to close the curtains and you're sitting there wondering, you're working late at night. And,
Doing a
I stop
spreadsheet.
talking. This is not going well. This is not going well. I'm telling you, with imagination, I go all over the place.
So what do you think? The window to nowhere, is it a design keeper or a design maybe not? What do you think?
I go with the mood wall first. I go with that. Let's put all of the money into that.
Okay, we've got one more, John.
Okay, so let's just see if this last one might just snatch the jaws of victory from the emotional mood walls. This is the soundproof screen room. So it's just going to be a padded room to let employees let out their frustration. So they would just go in, shut the door, no one would hear you, and you could just let it all out. And they do get recorded as well, and they can be played back to you at random. So the idea, this is a listener's idea. I mean, I have to finish this. So you'll be sat at your desk and suddenly the sound of your own screams will play back at you, which would unsettle everyone around you, including obviously yourself. So we've got this idea of it being a release of tension, but potentially it could be something quite haunting.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
I like what's put on the end of this. A reminder that your inner turmoil is always present. So David Lynch, maybe. Anyway.
The first part was really fantastic to have the screen room. My mother is a psychologist, John, and since we were little, she told us that feel free to grab the pillow and kick the hell out of it. Just, get this pillow and just start really having a go at this pillow to let all your tension and frustrations out. And it's actually a healthy exercise. If it sounds like a bunch of lunatics, right? This is just, I'm revealing too much. But this thing, but the part about a padded room that allows you to go in this Zen environment, be it if it's all white and if it's padded and if it's soundproof, it's actually quite wonderful. I wonder if it has been done in some of the countries and some places. I heard something like it in past, but I like the idea. But the fact that they're going to play that horrid screaming later, it sort of it's just killing the whole idea.
Yeah. There's definitely a data protection thing there as well.
Your listeners are really interesting people, aren't they? I mean,
they are.
They are.
And these are the best ones. Yeah.
I love it.
I should just say that when I was last in New York, I did see across the way from where we were staying, there was a smash room. And this is not dissimilar. This is where people go in and are allowed to have 30 minutes to go and smash up, I don't know, old laptops or television sets with baseball bats or whatever it is the weapon that comes to hand. But that was
hugely popular. Yeah.
I saw people. Yeah. Have you got those in Australia?
I'm not sure. I'm sure they're in the UK, though. I'm sure I've read about it there.
It's different in the UK. We're a bit more refined. We just go into a room and put a small scratch on a polished French table.
Yeah.
And then we go, that's all my frustration out.
I love it.
And there's a long, quiet line to get into the room as well. Yeah.
That's it.
Everybody's being terribly polite.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just go into a room, move the ornaments around, stuff like that.
I've been so bad.
A little bit, align things together.
So to conclude this thought experiment then, Rozhia, one that gets your vote and your money is?
The wall, the mood wall.
Emotion reflecting office walls.
Yes, emotionally responsive wall. I think it's a brilliant idea. All of them are good, though. I think that's just going to really fly high.
And there we have some of those ideas. They're somewhat impossible. And that is the end of Mission Impossible.
We're now into not so serious business podcast advice time. Now, we like to look on this through the lens of individuals, teams, and leaders as well. So, first question, you speak about great restaurant spaces igniting all of the senses at once, which sounds like curiosity on overdrive. What can we do as individuals to make sure we're not only curious, but we're igniting all of our senses at once? How can we be more curious with all of our senses?
I think it starts with being present. I act as a conductor, harmonizing every detail of an experience, lighting, music, ambience, so people feel engaged with and live with this distinctive experience. It's my job to bring the details together, but they need to be present in order to take the experience.
So that's along the lines of, in a simple level, put down your phone, look up, experience what's going on around you, be present. Would that be as a simple way to start it?
Yes, I think so. I think you're in a restaurant environment, you might be in a hotel, you might be in a spa, you might be at movies, you might be at a gallery, anywhere at your work. If you are present, you're just going to have a different experience.
Rozhia, you've worked on big collaborative design projects, contractors, designers, artists all coming together. How do those projects work successfully, and what are the lessons other teams might take from the way you work in those kind of projects?
With collaborative design projects, what I think is important to leave your egos at the door. Clear communication and a unified vision are essential to bring the project to life. So you want everybody to be committed.
I love the fact that you led that one with leave egos at the door. That's a really interesting first observation, I think, in terms of how teams then are going to be successful if they, as you say, unify behind the vision that is clearly understood. You said clear communication. There was one more there, which was, what was the last one?
Clear communication and unified vision.
Now, offices can be a little soulless and not that inviting, and lots of organisations are struggling with this around getting people back to work and how do we make the office a better place to be rather than like sort of a 1960s communist era vibe. What can leaders be doing to think differently around physical and emotional space that they want to create in organisations? Is there something there that they should be a bit more curious about?
That's interesting. I always think that flexibility is the key. The key is to be flexible. An office shouldn't feel like a cage. It should be a space that feels like home. Think natural light, open layout, and cozy lounges. I'm actually currently working on a startup space at UTS to foster creativity. So stay tuned. It's more about how the environment can affect you to feel free to perform and to be present, as we were talking about previously.
And let's say, can a workplace have its own soul and energy? Now, you spoke around projects that have soul. This might be a bit woo-woo here, but can an organizational building have a soul that people go, I connect to that? Or is it just, if it's work-based, it sort of rules it out?
Simon, every place has a culture. Every workplace has its own culture, and people are quite adaptable. You want people to have their sense of individuality as well as be a team. You don't want to override that because you most likely hired them because they're the person that they have a set of skills, and how they come together is very important. But flexibility, I mentioned, is key because we all have experienced this lifestyle of not having to have 9-to-5 jobs anymore. And people understand that they can be productive in a different manner if they are flexible. But to have this idea of you're productive within certain hours and you're not captured 24/7 with emails and calls, and there is this fine line. You had this flexibility of working at home, but you have an email at 11 and they want a response. Where do you draw that line, and how does it work? What is the happy medium? Where do we meet that we're going to have a bit of this and a bit of that and just be a happy marriage in the middle? It's a conversation within the design industry, professionals, businesses. I think everybody's really interested about what is the next thing and how to capture that. How can you be productive and be flexible at the same time? Businesses have to start trusting that, but they need to see, they always want a formula. They always want something with results. They want flow charts and numbers. So they're like, okay, but if you work at home, how do I know you're not at the gym? How do I know you're not watching Netflix? And how does that work? So It's fascinating conversation. It's a very fascinating conversation.
And I don't think one that anyone has really sorted out as yet successfully, and which is that flexibility piece. I think a couple of companies do it well, but I think every organization I work with is struggling with this. Well, what does that look like?
I'm blessed because I have been working in a very creative field. And I think however you start something and is the way that you function, they get used to it. And that becomes the expectation. I've never really been this 9 to 5 behind the desk. I take off. I go and sit at Central Park and do my sketches and thinking. And, I do things like that because as long as you deliver, I always said this to my designers and my team too. Please don't have food in front of the computer to impress me. Take your lunch break, go outside. They feel that if they stay late and if they eat in front of the computer and if management people see, they think they're very busy. At the end of the day, I care about the idea that you come up with what you're producing. And if you're happy and relaxed, you will do a much better job. I really want you to be happy in your full energy and be yourself. So it's fascinating. Some places they're very strict and some fields are not. And I think a lot of companies are learning to bend a little and to experiment with that. And I think they are trying different results and they're trying to see how it's going to end up. And then they will make their decisions little by little. I hope we deliver. I want to change.
I think the last time I was in an office of any description in big corporate life, it was in the Cold War era. So I think I had Cold War chic. So it was one of the places that Simon described very early on in that conversation point there. Yeah. Moving off the joke though, is it a false dichotomy or choice that one has to design a space that supports productivity and focus and concentration, which might be sort of, okay, let's have people sort of on their own and focus totally on the work at hand, to an environment that prompts creativity and imagination and curiosity, etc. Are those two spaces incompatible? Do they have to sit alongside each other, or can you create a space that allows people just to switch into both? I don't know if I've quite got that. I know in my mind what I'm thinking of. I don't know if I've conveyed.
I understand you. I think, let me use a little example. For example, when you're in a aeroplane, they actually change the temperature and lighting. So you would wake up, you would sleep, you'll be hungry, closer to when you're going to land, closer to when you're taking off, all of that. That there is a psychology behind that. There's a design behind that. In fact, they have updated a lot of planes now, and they updated the lighting and the temperature and the mood precisely for that reason. And they understand that you have less of a jet lag, that you have an easier trip, that you have a better experience, and that all equals with customer happy feedback at the back end of it, and they keep coming back. We know the science behind a lot of this, but the person that designed the office or the place, that when they lease it, they don't think that way. Most companies don't think about the lighting. They don't know how it's going to affect you. This awful hospital lighting that you have, this fluorescent thing that it just makes you feel like death. Why? I don't understand. They have this temperature. You're forever cold. You're forever hot. It's just, how is that good? That's not good for anybody if my feet are freezing. And the height of the desks, they're traditional. They're not necessarily a great height for you where you're looking at. I'm sure the chairs are flexible, but again, people don't even know or think about changing their environment slightly to make themselves feel more comfortable. So they're between the psychology, design, function, these are all relevant and they're all related to each other. And my job, for example, is to look at the space. I usually strip it. I just come in and strip everything out and I start something new. But that's my favorite. I don't like to just edit things what already exist, but I do that too. We need to look at things with fresh eye, and we need to do tweaks to pretty much everything. You edit, you curate, you update, you change certain little things, and it's going to make such a difference.
As you say that, Rozhia, I should perhaps conclude by saying maybe those emotion reflecting office walls are not such a bad idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly,
I think we've got to start a business. So let's get this
one
sorted
good
out
thing's
tomorrow.
come out of this show. It's the new agency we're starting.
A third. Okay, we'll just go equal shares.
it's a wonderful case study. It's a wonderful case study.
We got time for a rapid fire round now. Just to wrap us up, one thing you couldn't do without in your life right at the moment.
Sunny days. Easy answer. They're my daily dose of energy. And I can't share with you the rest. I'm sorry.
No, all good.
We are building the Occupational Philosophers Manifesto. So what one thing of all your learning do you think should be included?
I love that your podcast and what you are talking about, it's that the intention and core of it is curiosity. That I adore that. And I think stay curious and play with your creativity. It's all about keeping that spark alive. That is what is feeding me and interests me, and also that what attracts me to you.
And on the next time we have you back, so I think there's another show, I just want to have a day in the life of, like, what do you do to stay curious? Everything you're saying sounds so interesting. Okay, now what book should we be reading right now?
I highly recommend Wabi Sabi for Artists, Designers, Poets, and Philosophers book. It is based on Japanese aesthetic. It's all about embracing the beauty of imperfection and unconventional. It's beauty of things imperfect, impermanent, and transient. So it's a beautiful, beautiful book. I recommend it.
Final question here, Rozhia, is this is set many decades from now, and you found a beautiful retirement home in a lovely spot, either in New York or
Very
Sydney.
well
I
designed.
don't know which one. Maybe it depends on which accent you prefer. Anyway, so you're led into the residence lounge, and they all look up expectantly, and the nurse says, "Hey, everybody, this is Rozhia. How would you like to be introduced?"
Oh my goodness. I would, something inappropriate, most likely. But, well, let's just say I prefer something witty and slightly cheeky, perhaps, and not my creative escapades. But if I make it to that point, better be at some Greek island with water and sun and lots of olives and wine, I say.
Okay.
I deserve it.
Okay. All right. We'll take that. So look, what are you up to next? What cool things have you got on the horizon? If you can limit them down just to a few things, I think, to tell us. I think everything you've got going on. Yeah.
What I can share with you is that I have some exciting collaborations on the horizon. That's wonderful. And I'm looking forward to growing Sapersica with Rodina and hopefully continue adding to my shenanigans, Simon.
Yeah, perfect.
Great word, shenanigans. I like that. Where can we find you, Rozhia? Connect with you? What's the best way to get in touch?
Great. You can find me on Instagram. Shoot me a message if you're in Sydney or New York. I'm always up for Japanese whiskey or cup of tea. No middle ground for me.
Yeah. It's what is it? It's only kitsch or chic. Nothing in between.
No,
Quiche or chic?
No. Chic is in somewhere closer. Chic is not all the way. Kitsch is all the way one side. Lux is all the way the
Lux.
other side.
Okay, Luxe.
Lux.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a bit of extreme. I don't do middle grounds.
Next time you're in London, Rozhia, then I will take you to a wine merchant's that has a bottle of Japanese whiskey in a cabinet at the back that currently retails about £1 million.
Are you buying?
Yeah. John smashed it last time he was there accidentally.
Because I'm thinking, should I get a plane ticket? Is it worth the plane ticket at the moment? I like to meet you in person.
I have a key to the cabinet that the shop doesn't know. I've been topping it up with water.
I love it. There are these restaurants, John, that are actually that it hasn't been a new it's not a new thing, but they actually keep when you order your whiskey, for example, whiskey drinker. I drink whiskey and I love Japanese whiskey, and a lot of them are, like you mentioned, terribly expensive and exquisite. So I understand exactly what you mean. I don't have $1 million one yet. So if you do offer, please let me know, and I do fly over. But they actually have safe for their clientele, and they will keep your whiskey bottle for your next time, and it's yours, and it's there, and it's your safe, like a bank.
Yeah, I've got friends who collect whiskey, I believe. Yeah, they've do a fair trade in it, and they do quite well, like sort of stocks and shares. Like they buy and sell. What's the Scotch? That's what do you call it? Scotch whiskey, like the Scottish whiskey.
Yeah, Scotch is a better way of saying it. I guess it's like whiskeys. They have different types of all of this.
Yeah. Now, what's your Instagram handle?
It's at Rozhia. So my name is quite unique, Rozhia. When you Google, it will come up. It's one of the first things that come up on the top.
Too easy. We'll put a link in it.
So you can be found with just your name,
Madonna.
like Kylie.
You can, yes,
Madonna.
It's a rare name. You just Google, it's just the highly unlikely that you're going to have 8 of me.
How cool is that?
Yeah, I mean, you type in John, it's terrible.
John, do you think I could get my Instagram as John?
He's about the 18,000th John. Yeah. You're scrolling
18,000. Yeah. Millions, I think.
You're scrolling to about page 97 to find John. So, all right. So, look, on that, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us. And look, I can't tell you how much I enjoy this chat. And obviously, I say that every time, but we could just keep talking. And I've learned so much. And what I love is when we mash up things from different worlds and there's things cross over and thoughts and ideas. So, thank you so much for joining us for the night. And
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you both very much. This has been educational and entertaining and tickled my curiosity. So I appreciate both of your times and entertainment. Thank you.
John, that was such an awesome show. I could chat to Rozhia all day, and hopefully I will chat again. That's right in my sweet spot of design and creativity and curiosity. Yeah, I loved it. What stood out for you today?
Should we make the extra hour that we recorded available to subscribers?
Yeah, subscribers only. Yeah.
It was actually a 3-hour chat.
Yeah, what jumped out for you amongst the many little gems?
Many gems. I think the ones that I would sort of offer up here would be about the teams thing. Leave egos at the door. I thought it was really interesting that Rozhia started with that as the first observation. I thought that was really key. And obviously we all see that in some of the work that we do. I just thought that's a fantastic starting conversation to have as you assemble a team to go, hey, egos at the door, please. And obviously then clear communication with a unified vision. So that was really interesting. She talked about being present was the first thing for individuals. And that, again, that comes back time and again to pay attention, be present, engage all your senses. So I like that. And again, it is just a call to put the phone down, silence the distractions, etc., and just sort of be in the moment.
Note to self.
And then I like the airplane example. We were talking about repurposing office space and just how much of a challenge that is for organizations, but to think about how it can serve all their needs in terms of having space which fuels productivity, a space that encourages curiosity and creativity, that idea of changing the lighting, changing the mood, changing the temperature, and the fact that maybe our emotion reflecting mood walls might become a reality.
Yeah, I think there's something
quite
there.
Excited about that. We might be able to ditch the podcast and just go to business on that instead.
There was no trademark on that. Yeah.
Last one, I'm going to go for a hashtag, which is go past the cheese.
Oh, I love it. Like hit kitsch. Yeah.
How about for you?
Well, I do want to say, a bit of great minds also think alike. The back of my toilet door looks very similar to what the bathroom. No, just saying. So
yeah.
Just saying. All right, couple of things. This one, I mentioned it during clear intention, integrity, purpose. And we often hear these, purpose, what's your why, and a bit of time in the weeds, and, sit on top of the mountain and la, 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 all that type of stuff. But I love it's just bang, what's the purpose of this design? It really, it's a nice reminder for me to do some of those projects I'm working on at the moment. Just let's go back to what's the real purpose of what we're trying to do here? And it's not just in a sort of feel good way, but it's actually what's the purpose of this design? What's the purpose of this project? Let's be really, really clear. And if people aren't clear, let's be clearer, because it's going to maybe do a lot more of the heavy lifting than you think, and then you stay true to that purpose that you go through. So that, for me, just a really nice reminder to, hey, maybe be a lot more curious at the beginning, mate, rather than just a few questions.
Yeah, I thought she clearly really, really sits with those questions for quite a long time, I think. And I just scribbled that creative processing. That creative process starts with clear intent, real clear intent. I thought that was really useful.
Which is also flies against our creativity, just throw some ideas on the wall, see what happens. I think it's a really nice reminder to go, what's that be? A couple other things. Water is my sky and I live to fly. Oh, I almost started crying when she said that. So that, amazing. What a great little saying. And there's so many good things, but I really like Poly-Disciplinary Creative Chameleon. What a great way to
remembered.
Describe it. I just had coloured lizard, but I can't remember what it was when I got it back. So look, I literally can't, so hard to get it down to those. But look, that was great. So if you've enjoyed this episode, what we'd like you to do is tell your friends, and lots of people are, so thank you. And if you can be asked, which I know is hard, leave a review, because it's good for the algorithms, man, and pushes our podcast up a little bit higher so we get found a little bit easier. So we'd be forever grateful. And I think that's about it. So when you leave here today, what do we always ask people to do?
Well, I'm going to take my lead from Rozhia there, which is to stay curious, play with your creativity, keep your spark alive, have fun, and
I think, just as Rozhia is doing, get out there and date life each and every day.